Welcome to the Geek and I podcast. We are a GNN podcast network show, and today we are doing something a little bit different. Today is May the 4th, so it is Star Wars Day. So we are going to bring in a bunch of the GNN hosts, a couple of friends, we got a couple of surprises, but first let me bring in my special co-host today. Usually it's Jeff Dickinson, but Jeff is apparently having some technical issues, so hopefully he'll get in with us during the broadcast. But right now, I'd like to bring in my special co-host, Giant Pez Vader. Giant Pez Vader is a guy I met a couple of years back. I know he's very excited to be here. Is that correct, Giant Pez Vader? Okay. Well, hopefully someday you'll enjoy being on the program, and we'll talk to you later. We don't want to hear too much out of you right about now, so we're going to put you backstage, and we're going to get the program started. Welcome to the Geek and I podcast. We are part of the Geek News Now podcast network. It is May 4th, Star Wars Day, so we are talking everything Star Wars. I would like to bring in my guests today. His name is Chris. Chris, tell him what you do. The list is so numerous.
It's a staggering list. I'll admit to that. But one thing I do is every Monday, I do MCU Mondays. That's our live show where we talk about Marvel stuff, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Just did that yesterday. Had a great show. Looking forward to every Monday doing that with actually what my co-host is here with us later. But besides, there she is. Boom. I do that with Debbie.
Debbie and I. I'm sorry, Debbie. I forgot your walk-on music. So you got, and here she is from.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, every Monday, Debbie and I, at least, we're usually joined by some other great people, do MCU Mondays where we talk all about Marvel. But we just did that. So today, we're here to talk about Star Wars.
We're here to talk about Star Wars. And now let's bring in our next guest. Let me play. Introduce yourself, Andrew. Tell us what you do for GNN.
How's it going, everybody? Obviously, my name is Andrew. You can see it right there, right over here. And I am one of the contributors for the articles and the lists that we make for GNN. So, earlier today, I put out a piece about how I was introduced to the expanded universe and how I fell in love with it. So
I meant to comment on that. I love that piece, actually.
Yeah, that was
Thank
really
you, Chris.
good. I read that this afternoon. That was really
Thanks,
really
guys.
good.
Appreciate it.
And last but not least, because he's not last or least, here is Cam from Cam in Focus.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Doing good, man. Hey, Cam just had a video come out this morning. I think he's doing one every day this week. 60-second suggestions by Cam.
Yes, I am. Because, I talk to people every now and then who say that, there's just so much Star Wars out there outside of the films, and they don't know where to start to get more of it because, it's the EU is a big thing. So it tends to be very intimidating, especially to the newer fans. So I'm dedicating, these videos to basically 60 seconds of me just ranting about certain things in the EU or the Star Wars universe in general that a fan might want to check out, especially if they want to experience new stories.
Right, but let me tell you, not only is it for new fans just getting into it, because I watched the video and I cannot wait till you get into this Darth Bane that discussion and all the other characters, because the only extracurricular Star Wars that I ever did was the Timothy Zahn series. And after that, I don't know if it was because there was such a long separation between the movies that I just kind of checked out, so to speak. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to your next the next week of videos.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And coming in now is a good friend of mine, all the way from the state of disbelief known as New York. Here is my friend Marty McD. Marty.
Hey guys. By the way, after that nice Lobot introduction, I just thought I would adjust. So I have come in honorable mention in the Lobot lookalike contest 3 years in a row. So,
so all right. So now let's start off this program with some history, and I don't mean Star Wars history. I mean your history with Star Wars. You know, what was your first memory of Star Wars? Now, for me, I saw Star Wars here at the RKO Twin in Comac. Now, Marty probably remembers that because that was, one town over from where we grew up. It's no longer there. I think it's now a Target parking lot. But that was where I saw, and I saw it there before it even became a Twin. So Chris, we'll start with you. What is your first memory of seeing Star Wars?
It's definitely the biggest thing I remember is actually Episode 1. That's not to say that I didn't know of Star Wars before then, because I was already obsessed with Star Wars before then, but I had never seen it in theaters. I had never been to like an opening event. And when it comes to going to things like that, I remember as a kid, I went to see the Pokemon movie, and that was huge for me. And I got the special playing card. So like, it was the kind of the same thing with Episode 1. I knew I was totally into Star Wars, and this was what I was about. And so I went to see it, and it was great. And I still love that movie to this day, even though there's, parts, but
what introduced you to Star Wars? Was it,
we had the VHS tapes, we had them, and I loved watching a bunch of 80s and other like older type movies. Me and my brothers and sisters, like TV was our babysitter. Jurassic Park, we had like Jurassic Park 1 and 2 on VHS. We had Independence Day, and we had all of Star Wars. So like these things got watched a lot by us.
Debbie, what was your introduction to the Star Wars universe?
Was that for me?
Debbie, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
when you hear your name, please speak up.
senior moment. Well, it was the summer of 77. I was 13. My mother had passed away that spring. And we were visiting my brother, who was in the Navy at that time, and he decided that we should go stand in line for hours to go watch this Star Wars movie. I had never heard of it because we were dealing with other things, and we were in the movie theater. I had one brother on one side, the other brother on here, and my dad was over on the other side, and I'm slouched all the way down in my seat because at that point I couldn't care less. Didn't know what it was. But as soon as that music started, and then the big Star Destroyer came up over the screen, I mean, I just popped up out of my seat and I was like, what the hell is this? And I was in love from that moment on. And I've passed it down to all my kids. They all love Star Wars, and a couple of nephews I've passed it on to also. So that's how I got started.
Okay, now, Marty, what, where did you get? Do you remember where you saw it? And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was summer of 77. I was 6 years old, and I remember it like it was yesterday, because we went to the movies a lot, but not as a family. Like my dad would take me, or my mom would take me, or grandma would take me. And this was the first time I remember all of us going to the movies together in the old Kings Park movie theater, which is now a liquor store or a Chinese restaurant. And what always left an impression on me was sitting in that theater when the music came up and the score started, and just being blown away that music in a film could have such an impact on you. I think it's still one of the most timeless movie scores ever recorded, but I just remember being so influenced by the music and how beautifully it went with the visuals that I ran out immediately and wanted to get the soundtrack album and every knockoff soundtrack album and Miko's disco version, which I still have to this day. But that was, yeah. Listen, the 70s and early 80s were a weird time, if anybody
Come on.
and I think
But
for
do you
the
remember
first,
do you remember the flip side to that?
was it the Star Trek one? On the flip side of that?
That was the album version.
Oh, that was the album
The
version.
flip side of the 45 was the Close Encounters.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah. I think also, John, you're old enough to remember that the build up to this film, the build up to this film was unlike anything anybody had seen up to that date. They certainly didn't market toys. In the summer of 77, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing Star Wars on something. Bumper stickers, t-shirts, iron-ons, patches. It was just a phenomenon.
Now, Cam, you're the big Star Wars guy. What is your first memory of seeing it?
Well, I'm 28 years old currently. My first Star Wars experience was back when I was about 5 years old. So Episode 1 hadn't quite come out yet. I believe it was actually a year or two before. But the first time I watched Star Wars, my stepdad, I was spending the night at my stepdad's house. He sat me down, turned off all the lights, and put on Star Wars. And he was just like, "Okay, well, no, just watch this and zone out for a little bit just to keep you out of my hair." And he didn't actually put on Episode 4. I don't know why he did that. He actually put on Episode 6. So my first Star Wars experience was those damn Ewoks. But even though I didn't quite understand, everything that was going on, I was still able to follow along for the most part to know, Luke Skywalker good, Darth Vader bad, Leia and Han good, Jabba the Hutt bad. I was blown away by it. I wasn't old enough, to appreciate, the storytelling, the music, anything that went into, the film itself. But it was my first experience, and it got me excited for more. And after that, as the days and weeks went on, he introduced me to the other films, and then Episode 1 came out in theaters, and I believe that was my first real big theater experience. I actually think my first theater experience was the Power Rangers movie back in '95. But
no, that's quality.
Wow.
I would
Same for me. Same for me.
yeah,
I
man.
suddenly feel ancient.
Yeah, but no, I saw Episode 1 in theaters, and but the political stuff aside, I just thought it was the greatest thing ever. And after I got it on VHS, that film was on repeat in my house.
Also, if you were a kid, we were kids of different ages at that time. When Episode 1 came out, then some of those video games and stuff came out, and the pod racing game with an actual pod racer that you get in and you
Yeah, man.
done. You're in. You're just as a kid, you're totally in.
So, Andrew, what was your introduction?
Just to piggy off of what Cam said, the very first movie I ever, for sure, the first movie I ever saw in my life was Power Rangers. So we share that in common. But also very similar to Cam, in everything else. I remember my dad actually, I got the I think those was the '97 re-release of the VHS tapes, the one where it's the ones that start off with that very, very long interview with George Lucas, and I don't know who the interviewing guy is. But
Oh yeah.
I just remember I would always skip. Like, none of this matters to like 6-year-old me, so I'm just skipping to get to the movie. But the first one I remember.
You skipped Leonard Maltin.
Is that who that was?
Skipped over Leonard Maltin. That portion of my VHS tapes of that copy is worn down so much. I would just rewind that and watch that over and over again.
5-year-old me wasn't really interested in that.
Oh, that's right.
Before DVD specials and stuff like that, you had this where it's just like, here it is at the front. We're just going to do it that way. And you got, God bless the DVDs that came after, director's commentary, everything like that. It was tough before.
Yeah, but I remember the first one. I'm pretty sure I watched them out of order because I remember my first memory is I remember a forest, so that tells me that must have been Return of the Jedi also, just like Cam. Because I remember seeing the forest and Vader already with Luke, so that's my first memory of Star Wars. But the kid, I rewatched those so many times. Like those were kind of like when my parents would go to work, I would be home during like summer vacation. Like I rewatched those tapes so many times. So I grew up about 5 or 6 at the time when those came out. So yeah.
So speaking of you watching them out of order, what is there a consensus on what order to watch them in?
Wait,
is
they're
it
connected?
I actually kind of have an answer for that. If you're new to Star Wars, or if you're introducing somebody to Star Wars, watch them in release order. If you've already watched Star Wars, you already know the story, the ins and outs of all the characters and everything. Watch it in chronological order.
I agree with what you're saying, Cam.
I agree totally. Yes, because if you spoiler alert for anybody in the room, if you watch it in the wrong, the shock of episode 5 is not even there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like watching the end of Days of Our Lives before you know that Mary is Sabrina's twin.
Oh, yeah.
Did you just compare Star Wars to Days of Our Lives?
That's the great thing about Star Wars. It's universal. You can compare it to anything. Don't make me do it. But, oh man, I just actually showed my parents Star Wars for the first. They had never seen it. They're like, we have a son who's really obsessed with this, but we've never watched it. I just showed it to them. That's the order that I showed it to them in. The originals first, and then the prequels. Not just also because the film style. I mean, they were shot at different times differently. I would rather have them go in with seeing the original trilogy first and like getting used to this kind of that before going into the prequels, and then you've got a heightened sense of it, better graphics. Some complain about that, but it was groundbreaking. They were all groundbreaking at the time, the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy.
Or they could just go back and re-release them by making them all look like the original trilogy. That would work for me.
Or they could go back and do models on everything and replace the CGI with actual physical model. Well, it's been how long now since the episode 1?
There were tons of physical models.
20 years.
20 years, right? So it's about time to go back and revisit them and add in a couple of things. And
oh God, like a special edition version. They were the special edition version, but he made them the special. That's the thing about the prequels. It's like, oh, we have the special edition. He did that already. He made the special editions, and then he went right into the prequels and like did everything he could with that. And yes, he got carried away. And yes, as much as I love George Lucas, he's not the best.
I've got one
director.
I've got one thing to say on that. McClunky. Like,
I don't know what's happening.
Where does it stop? Like,
I don't.
Episode 3 needs a dance number.
You think you got up in the middle of the night like, that's it. I know it's missing. I gotta go back. I gotta add that McClunky line. It'll kill.
The dance number from Jabba the Hutt's palace.
Or maybe just have a battle behind a CG rock.
Why did you do it?
Yeah.
Nothing. He was just like, look what we can do now. It's like, you can do it. George, but why? Why are you doing it?
Yeah, sometimes less is more, and yeah, I think you learned that a little late. But
I do want to say that the prequels, they did use tons of actual like models.
yes, they did.
They did, and the whole arena. One of my favorite ones is the arena from the Padres, and they did it all with like Q-tips, and they had a thing that they
They
moved
painted-
underneath
Yeah,
to make them look like they're moving. And when you're filming something and you're using that as a background, the background is naturally hazy anyway. It works.
it
looks
worked
perfect.
beautifully. Yeah,
And in the originals, how they use literal paintings as backgrounds, matte paintings. That was amazing.
Some of the
for
most beautiful
those are the
paintings, I
Docking
think.
Bay, right? I think.
And that's why they were
Yes.
industrial light and magic. Because all film has to do with how you capture the light on film, essentially. And magic, that's special effects. And they're the best.
So if you had to put one episode in a box and bury it, so when eventually all of humanity is gone and the aliens decide to come down after they've wasted us and they start digging around planting their crops, this thing pops up. What episode is it?
The holiday special.
Battle for Endor.
I think you could do that for 4. I think 4 will be a good one.
Yeah, I think just because of the importance of episode 4, the one that started this all, I think it would have to be 4.
I
Well,
agree.
I kind of agree with Cam. I mean, if the alien race came down here and destroyed us,
Here's
we
what you
wouldn't-
get for
yeah,
killing us.
This is what you get. This is what you get. The holiday special.
I don't know. I think B. Arthur has a lovely singing voice.
Oh my gosh.
Stir, whip, stir, whip.
The aliens afterwards were like, we destroyed this species. What have we done? What have we done?
Yeah. They're
John,
actually
you remember watching that live?
You know what? I watched it live from my cousin's basement in. I was visiting cousins in Virginia, and it was on, and we watched it. And halfway through, being the huge Star Wars fan that I am, I got up and walked away.
You
I don't even remember if I stayed long enough to see Boba Fett. So
You mean you left before knowing if Chewie got back for Life Day? I mean, you, yeah, I enjoy a good Wookiee story as much as anybody else, but 44 minutes of it does get a little grating after a while. With no subtitles, yeah.
There's a lot. It's like, hey, why have you chosen to put this here as opposed to a theatrical release?
Drove my dog crazy for like an hour. So
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
let's just hope that we don't get a let's just hope we don't get a holiday special edition.
Well, I'd like to see more Lumpy. You know, I don't know why he hasn't been in any of the sequel series. I mean, I think he's just as important. And you notice what this conversation has excluded is the sequel series. We've talked about the originals, we've talked about the prequels, and no one has mentioned, until I said Lumpy should be in the sequel series, the last 3 movies that came out. Why do you think that is? Are they truly that bad, or is it just something that nobody wants to admit that they have gone and paid money for?
I didn't want to start a fight. And
Yeah.
that's what
Same.
happens. Like, and that used to be what happened when you talked about the prequels. Back in the day, I imagine I was a kid. I was just getting hated on for liking Star Wars in general back then. So this is a whole new deal where Star Wars fans are at each other's throats.
Uh-huh.
But back then there were people raging against the midi-chlorians. What the
Well,
you're killing my childhood. So there's some of that happening, but there's also
right. And Marty,
Other
do you remember?
stuff.
We were there opening night of Phantom
Yes.
Menace.
yes, we were the midnight show.
at the Farmingdale United Artists.
Right.
And do you remember what I said to you when the movie ended? What I turned and said to you? Do you remember? I can remember it. Let me see if you remember.
I think I was still in shock. Go ahead, refresh my memory.
I turned and said, "What the hell was that?"
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
the only
I
thing
can
that
see
I
it.
liked about the at that time about Phantom Menace was the breathing at the end. I thought that was an amazing touch.
Yeah, that was great. I remember being disappointed because it felt like a build that didn't really have a payoff until that ending where you got that little hint of what was to come. I had such mixed feelings about it, and I actually didn't watch it for like 5 years. And about a year ago, TNT was doing their usual, I think it was Labor Day marathon, and I sat down and I watched it again, and I liked it better now than I did back then. And I don't know if that's because of the sequel series and say, well, that wasn't that bad. There are, you can see it was very ambitious, but there were clearly missteps. And whenever I see Jake Lloyd on the screen, I wonder why George Lucas decided to adopt an R Gang style direction. Like it felt like I was watching Little Rascals with the overacting, and I think it was just too much. I think if they had underplayed that character more. Oh God, yeah. I'm having post-traumatic stress disorder here. But I think, and not to lay it all on his shoulders, I think Jake Lloyd really is one of the big problems with that movie. And I think it's unfair to ask a young child actor to carry a role like that. Other than that, and some of the stereotypes with the there were a lot of stereotypes in that movie. We had Watto, we had the Trade Federation. I mean, if they were making that today, that simply wouldn't fly, and that wasn't that long ago. So,
okay, I got to ask now. Like, you know, since we're on this topic, I mean, honestly, am I the only one out of all of you that actually likes the sequels?
I like the sequels. They're not my favorite, but I like them.
I like them, but to me, they lack that continuity. They're just, they all have a very different feel to them, and to me it's not like watching a trilogy. It's like watching 3 separate stories with the same title. I think that's why I have a big problem with that. Like, you know, the scene with the kid with the broom. Well, okay, where were we going with that? Beats me. Like, Rose's character totally got the shaft. You know, I think it was just a case of too many people having input into it and not somebody kind of guiding the story from beginning to end. And no, go ahead.
I mean, that's what I was kind of saying about George Lucas is like with the prequels, he's not the best director, but he is really good at a lot of the story aspects of things. Like he spent a lot of time working on that, the hero's journey. He even talks about it. People joke about it, but the thing about it being like poetry, that's part of the hero's journey, and having Luke and Anakin go through some of the same steps, but make different choices along the way at those steps. He was very much focused on that, even if other things kind of got played out wrong, miscasted, whatever you want to call it. The story behind it was solid. I don't think the sequels have that. They've got beautiful. Again, it's still Lucasfilm doing this. It's still Industrial Light and Magic. The graphics in The Last Jedi, the way that movie looks, that was better than like Infinity War, Endgame, whatever else was coming out at the time. I looked at those two things and was just like, The Last Jedi wins on the part of pure graphical content. And they're all both owned by Disney at this point, so I don't even know what's going on. But the story between those movies was not cohesive to me and to a lot of other people. It didn't flow. And that was kind of the whole thing. If this is the end of the Skywalker saga, if this is the big thing, how do you not care more about making sure it flows together? It's a saga. That's what a saga is. It's based on a Norse epic So it's one story. If you want to tell other stories, that's why the rest of that universe is out there. Go do it. But they wanted to bank on the Skywalker thing, but they never got a cohesive story lined up for the whole thing.
Yep. And I think the prequels succeed in that each progressive prequel is better than the last. But so by the time we get to the last one, that last half hour, it like blows you through the back wall, and you're like, we made it finally.
Here
Star
it is.
Wars. Okay, here it is. And
Well, that's learning from your mistakes. That's what Star Wars is. I think George listened to people, and he could see how much, like, you know, that affected him, that he was like, why do you make movies for people that are just going to hate it? But I think that quote is from him at like a lower time. What he wanted to do was tell these stories. I mean, originally about fathers and sons and, you know, everything beyond that, because of his own relationship with his own father.
yeah.
And so that's kind of an important thing, the familial relationships and that kind of the hero's journey. That's the Greek stories, the Shakespearean things, all Disney stories follow it. He was one of the first ones to do it, though, actually. And that's why when they interviewed Joseph Campbell, who's the one that actually identified the hero's journey, which they use all over Hollywood now.
Yep.
They actually filmed one of the last interviews with him, and I recommend anyone that enjoys Star Wars watch it. It's called Joseph Campbell and the Power of Myth. It was filmed at the Skywalker Ranch because, again, that's something George was obsessed with. If you get his book, Joseph Campbell, one of them anyway, and The Hero with 1,000 Faces, one of the quotes on the back is from George Lucas, and it says, "In the 3 decades since I discovered The Hero with 1,000 Faces, it has continued to fascinate and inspire me. Joseph Campbell peers through the centuries and shows us that we are all connected by a basic need to hear stories and understand ourselves. As a book, it is wonderful to read. As illumination into the human condition, it is a revelation." If you want to know more about Star Wars, and I recommend that.
Does that book come in a special edition?
Actually, yes, it does. Christopher Vogler wrote a special edition to help teach writers how to take, because that's very, I know you weren't being serious, but I took it seriously. I know, I don't care. Christopher Vogler, who helped write movies like Terminator and other major Hollywood successes, studied Joseph Campbell's format and Star Wars and wrote his own books to help better explain that using more pop cultural references. It's one of the books that I read while I was actually in college. They assigned it to me, and I was like, this is great. It's just Joseph Campbell, easier though. And so Christopher Vogler and the Writer's Journey, if anyone else is interested in that, that's the special edition.
Yeah, that, you know, that you mentioned that's pretty good side knowledge, because I don't think people would walk by that in a bookstore if there are any, you know, and they would see it on the bookshelves and think to themselves,
It's got pages.
Actually, my daughter requested that for Christmas last year, and I got it for
Oh,
her.
fantastic.
That's awesome.
That is.
So what changes would you have made to the sequel series to kind of morph it into, I hate to say a clone of the original trilogy, which in my estimation it already is. But what, you know, how would you have changed the story to make that journey? Whose journey would it become? Would it become Kylo's journey, and you know, his grandfather's legacy, trying to live up to that, and then realizing what it was, and then, or would it be Rey, or would it be somebody else, or would you, you know, I know they kind of just threw Finn and, you know, and Rose into the, you know, just like, here, you just stand over there in the corner. Whose journey would it be that we would follow? Like, it was like, you know, we followed Luke's journey, and everybody else was an ancillary character. And, you know, who would you choose to be the leader of the journey?
Well, the first, I mean, honestly, as someone who is a sequel fan, the first thing I would do is completely redo the last film, because I mean, I personally believe that The Last Jedi is a good follow-up to The Force Awakens, but then The Rise of Skywalker just completely craps on the setup that those films had,
Bonds.
and it takes away from the character-driven aspect of the story. So the first thing I would do is just redo that entire last film and just start it from scratch, because it takes away the importance of Rey's journey by forcing this plot of, okay, well now you're suddenly related to Palpatine, and now this thing is going to happen in 16 hours, so everybody has to scramble, and basically everything happens just because this thing is about to happen. And I understand what they were going for, but at the same time, it does take away that sense of urgency, and it does take away that sense of personal discovery. Because other than being a Palpatine, what does Rey really learn about herself in the end?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I always kind of thought it should have been Rey and Ben, or Kylo, their journey. To me, it could have kind of sort of paralleled Luke and Leia in some form or fashion. And I think they totally missed that opportunity, in my opinion. That's just me. But I think it should have focused more on them and not all these little side stories and going to Canto Bight. And I always skip through that part every time I watch that movie. I always fast forward. But in my opinion, I think it should have pretty much focused on Rey and Kylo.
I always thought that it should have been Leia's journey, because really, when you look at it, right, her father, her brother, her son, all of this that she's had to kind of from the sidelines watch. Well, she still had the same force strength as both her father and her brother. I think it would have been interesting to see her parallel journey with Rey, as Rey's power rises, as does Leia, who's already lost one child to the dark side, to become that mother protector to Rey, to not let that happen to another child. And I think that would have been an interesting showdown between Leia and Palpatine, because that's the man who really is responsible for her father, that ultimately turning her son to the dark side. I mean, destroying her home planet of Alderaan. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So I would have liked to have seen over the course of 3 films her develop and expand upon not just being a leader for the rebellion, but to kind of take charge of her own life and say, this is now my journey too. I can do this, and I am going to fight to make sure that the people I love are not taken down by this dark side anymore.
Well, I think it would have been interesting had she had lived, because from my understanding, the last movie was supposed to be focused on her. So it would have been interesting to see what they had actually planned.
I would have been terrified about that, because apparently The Last Jedi was focused on Luke. There was in my opinion, I know not everyone agrees with me, they undid all of Luke's character development from The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and just make him make mistakes that he wouldn't make because he already made them and learned from them. And then what are the lessons Yoda teaches him? A Jedi uses the Force only for knowledge and defense, which he doesn't understand until he's about to kill his father, and then he has an epiphany, and that's when it hits him. So if you tell me anything about, well, it's in Luke's characteristic or whatever, and you compare him to anything before the moment when he decides to kill Vader, I'm going to say, okay, but then he had an epiphany, and now he doesn't necessarily think that way. So all of that mess right there, to me, is a mess, and not everyone thinks that way. I get it.
But Luke's fall, well, not fall, but his isolation, it parallels Yoda's. I mean,
But it doesn't make any
exact same
sense for
thing.
him to be doing it. It doesn't make any sense for him to give up when he failed his nephew that way. It doesn't make sense for him to fail his nephew that way because his nephew's an innocent person and he knows not to trust Force Fit. So again, when we get to the sequels and we're saying, what would you change about him? That is a huge thing. And I would just go back to the first one, The Force Awakens, when they were saying things like, this is Snoke. And in their advertising, they said, this is Snoke. He's not a Sith. He's watched the rise and fall of the Empire. And they're building up all this stuff, and then none of that's real. And actually, he's just a clone of Palpatine or whatever. It's just disingenuous and building up something that's not actually there. Like the hype train. Even if you did like The Last Jedi, the hype train they set up for the last one, saying things like, nothing derailed anything. It's all going to work out great. Yeah, did it? I don't. Okay.
And Snoke was the character I thought was the most interesting because, again, I thought we were building to something until we get that nice pan of a jug of Snoke.
It was Palpatine all along. And with that, I'd like to welcome David Gramillion to the Grand Poobah is with us.
Yes, and I have come armed and ready for combat. I got my Ultra Saber here, my talking Ultra Saber right here. Makes all sorts of wonderful sound effects and everything. And old Blue in action one more time here. So I felt it rather appropriate on Star Wars Day to come armed and ready. Yeah, that was.
Actually, you should be disarmed and ready. That's Star Wars way.
Dave,
Okay, so I'm going to change my name to David Skywalker now. Is what I'm going to do. I get it.
Dave, check your mic settings.
Check my mic settings.
You sound like you're at the Death Star trench.
I could just
Almost
put to John's original question about
How about now?
about
What would you change?
Oh, right. I'm sorry. About what I would change is I feel like when we start off in the
1 more 2.
and how we have like the First Order as this big looming threat, that instantly kind of felt to me like sounds like none of them really matter then, because like they destroyed 2 Death Stars, to Emperor, and like we're just kind of back to where we started again. And then the whole thing also, the Jedi being wiped out like off screen again, starting over from zero again, kind of just felt like we're kind of just retreading like the same kind of steps. And I was really hoping to see how would Luke have, like, you know, I'm guessing because a lot of my thoughts are based off the expanded universe, how Luke would have like formed the Jedi, kind of get rid of like the whole like monk, about like feelings and emotions and all that. Like, I wonder how Luke would have adapted that. Instead, we're kind of just back to like how A New Hope was, where didn't really matter from before because we're kind of back to square one again.
And I was going to say, if you've read the expanded universe, that's probably where a lot of the people that don't like Luke's portrayal, that's where it's from. Not that he had to be a god or anything, but there's tons of stuff in the expanded universe. And so for us to be, we've been waiting this long, we've been reading these books, we've been thinking of this character in this way, and then it's not the way that you think it is. I get that that's also not, things don't always go the way you want, but it feels,
you can't always get what you want.
You can't. Ain't that the truth? So on a certain level, I also just deal with it. I was like, I have my complaints about the sequel. What would I blah blah blah? Can I actually do that? No, I can't. No, it is the way that it is. But I am still a guy that sits over here, like the expanded universe. They call it Legends now. I actually have on my computer every single book from Legends in order. It ends with the Legacy era, and so that's over 270
AB1,
which is just insane. So 270 books in the expanded universe, and people will get online and just be like, the expanded universe is trash. And I'm just like, how many of the 270 books have you read? And they were like, well, I read 2. And I'm just like, woo!
And they're probably Kevin Anderson novels. I bet they'll get the Kevin Anderson novels too.
And I could see how you would get turned off by some of them. Yes, there are over 270 books. Some of them suck. some of the 9 Star Wars saga movies suck in my, so like out of 270, you're gonna have some that are terrible, but don't judge the entire 270 books.
The one where they have to go back in time and get the whales to repopulate in the future, I was just like, what are you kidding? Who comes up with this drivel? I was
different timeline.
That's not a real one.
That's a George Lucas rewrite, right?
That's what they're going to cover in Loki.
That's the special edition.
I was probably the only person who came out of the arena at Celebration Chicago disappointed in the episode 9 trailer. As soon as they revealed it was Palpatine coming back, I mean, my jaw just dropped, and I'm like, really?
Yeah,
really?
I didn't like that either.
I had
really
suspicions. I talked to a Star Wars cast member. This is legit. I talked to a Star Wars cast member after episode 8, and I said, if you notice in the throne room when Kylo brings Rey up to meet Snoke, Goldmember Snoke, and the Emperor's theme is playing, and I said, wait a minute, tell me there's more to this, right? And this is a guy who worked on episode 7, 8, and 9. And he said, I can't say yes or no, but I will say you are going down the right path. And I'm like, oh, crap, they're going to bring back Palpatine in some way, shape, or form. And when they did, I got a little grayer at the time, a little more hair started to fall out, because the Star Wars universe, as big as it is, it's a universe, is so small that they're just terrified. Lucasfilm is terrified of moving beyond that. That's why every time Dave Filoni gets a series or announces a new series, I'm like, great. Which characters from the Clone Wars or Rebels are you gonna bring over? Because he just can't do anything 100% original. He's got to bring somebody in. So I knew they're gonna bring back Palpatine. They're gonna bring back Lando. They're going to bring back, because they can't stand on their own. They've got to constantly borrow from other parts of the franchise.
Member Bears. It's only
Remember
50
this
people in the whole
character?
galaxy they keep running into. So,
Well, that was what I thought when Disney bought it, and they said, we're going to do 3 more saga movies, and we're going to have these anthology movies. The way that I saw that was, I was like, okay, they're going to do some attempt to bring these characters back, the ones we know, and finish up a saga type thing. Okay, I'm interested. Even after The Force Awakens, I was like, I'm still here. But then they also said, we're going to have anthologies. It's not just going to be about this one story anymore. We're going to make Star Wars movies about different things. That's how Rogue One was originally pitched. I know, as a totally, this is just about Republic soldiers. And then they came back and they're like, it's about the Death Star. And then the next one they do, Solo. And why did they do Solo? Because when Disney bought Star Wars, they ran a poll on Disney.com that said, who's your favorite Star Wars character? Which at the time, everyone on that website was just there for Disney and had no idea what Star Wars was. And Han Solo is the most recognizable. So everyone clicked Han Solo. And so they were like, who can we make a movie about that will never fail?
Wait a minute.
And then
No,
let's
Han
not
Solo
use Harrison
is wild.
Ford.
So basically, you're telling me the poll was all soccer moms who remember Harrison Ford in 1977.
I'm saying that it was Disney.com when they first bought Star Wars.
Look at the grin
the
on Debbie's
people
face. She knows
that
what
were-
I'm talking about. You see that?
The people that were on that were on Disney.com at the time were not necessarily Star Wars fans. It was Disney fans. So that poll was asked to Disney fans, and Disney
Soccer
fans
moms.
said, I recognize Harrison Ford. And then they said, let's make a movie about the character that he played. But then they didn't use actually Harrison Ford. And there was other things, but it was, and they should have moved away. If you're gonna move away from like the Sky, do it. And there are other characters too, like Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian. They're actually spreading, even though that used Luke Skywalker, but still, most of the episodes and most of the things are moving away from directly the Skywalker and moving into that greater universe. Things like Thrawn, things like Ahsoka, setting things like that up that are branching outward into that bigger universe.
Now they in was it episode 1? Was it episode 1 where they had the Knights of Ni, and they came back in I'm sorry, episode 7.
Seven.
It was the Knights of Ni, and then they came back in 9. So when those guys came back, how cool do you think it would have been that those characters and I can't even. I'm so blanked out on the sequel series. I don't even remember what their names are. That's why I call them the Knights of Ren.
You're confusing the Knights of Ren with the Squires of Stimpy. They're two completely different groups.
How cool would it have been to have the characters that passed in Rogue One become somehow those Knights of Ren? Because if you put pictures up, they kind of look the same.
It would have been more interesting than what they did with it, which was nothing, which was set it up and then have him be killed off. And they didn't even give him cool weapons, like the Imperial Guards. That at least they had like laser weapons, even though they died as easily as anyone else. The Knights of Ren went down like, and they were like, "Oh, I've got a sword." I'm like, "Not even a blaster. He's got a lightsaber, you idiot!"
I think I saw one guy throw a rock. So
yeah, like, what are you doing? What do you think? Like, you're gonna die? You're not scary. You're not intimidating. He's the guy that recruited you.
Well, I threw a rock at him. It was a big rock.
What's happening? Although
I think
gotta say,
episodes 7, 8, and 9 are a classic example of why Kevin Feige is the god of our time. And I'll get into this real quick. I mean, yes, Marvel's awesome, but it's pretty.
There's only
clear.
one god, sir, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that. Sorry.
But episode 7, 8, 9. So J.J. Abrams set up episode 7. Okay, here are the Knights of Ren. We're going to talk about them. Here's Rey and her parentage. We'll talk about that. He set up this world. Maz Kanata. Ooh, how'd she get the lightsaber and all that? He set it up.
Well, that's a story for another time.
But in true George Lucas fashion, they let another director come in for episode 8, and then, oh my God, we're so screwed. Let's bring back JJ for episode 9. But there was no Kevin Feige guiding hand to say, guys, we really need to talk about the Knights of Ren. We really need to get into Maz Kanata. We really need to tie all of this together and realize that the more time they spend on the original characters like Han, Luke, and Leia, the less time we have with Rey, Finn, and Poe. And because there was no guiding hand, no Kevin Feige. I mean, I'm sure Kathleen Kennedy was in the room, but she's more of a business side, more of the executive side. Because there was no creative guiding hand, no Kevin Feige, you saw what happened. Episode 7's the setup. Episode 8 is, well, I have to confound every blogger's expectations so nobody can say that they were proven right. And then episode 9 was, oh my God, we need to end this trilogy. That purely demonstrates why Kevin Feige is just the geeky god of our time. If they'd had somebody to help string and connect this along and see the big picture, it would have been much better.
Well, and then that's why you had directors and writers being fired and removed, and not only just
I nominate myself for the job.
And
I'll tell you, when episode 9 rolled around, I was really afraid we were going to get a larger Starkiller base, and just repeat that whole thing over again.
Well, you did.
While I'm on the topic, wait.
Kind of did.
While I'm on the topic, did anyone else find the Starkiller base completely baffling? Did anyone bother to learn how a planet works? So
isn't it? Or
if I don't get this shot off now,
that you can destroy a sun?
Another year before I get a pass at it.
Well, my big question was, okay, so you destroy a sun, you suck up the sun's energy. Well, then what? You're kind of screwed.
They just sit back and go, you know what? Next time that star system's in range, they're going to get it. You can't
traveling capabilities.
Dependent on the rotation of the planet and around the sun, and that took me out of the movie. Going, guys, I know it's Star Wars and basic science is not the strong point here, but I'm pretty sure a planet doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking the destruction of a sun wasn't enough for you. That right there, you've just destroyed a solar system.
Well, what are you going to do now? It's not like you can use the. It's not like you can use the.
It's a 2 for 1 though, because then you blow up all the other planets around another sun, and apparently move. I think it has hyperspeed capability for somehow. I don't know. A planet. It's somehow. And you want to call the EU crap? They had a living planet that could do stuff like that.
Okay, so what we do is we move all the troops to the far side of the planet and get them to jump simultaneously,
and we push it,
move it a couple of feet at a time.
I need a Hammerhead Corvette.
Yeah, I need a lot of
a
hammer
really big one. No, so
It seems
so
like it was
go to the
designed
straight.
by Daffy Duck. You know, it's like I can do this trick, but I can only do it once.
I told you once. Maybe he got an Acme rocket. Maybe that's how it happened.
Sir, we're all out of suns.
So let me get
We're all
this.
out of suns.
So let me get this straight. So they were able to somehow hollow out a planet to use as a gigantic weapon. They were able to rebuild a massive Imperial fleet with these giant dreadnoughts and everything, and not one person in the Alliance noticed.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Yeah, I know the USA
Actually-
is known for some intelligence failures, but
No.
come on.
That's what the Resistance was. Founded by General Leia,
For some reason.
Well, why does she have to found a resistance outside? Because apparently they don't believe her that this even exists, which I don't understand how that works. But I think they've tried to justify it with books and other things in between. But
In true George Lucas fashion.
it
Now,
works.
what if they had, at the pitch meeting, like, okay, so you want to build it here, but this will only give you one shot. Let's build it on Tatooine where we can at least fire it twice.
Two
Yeah,
suns.
get to those binary, trinary star systems. What if we miss? Well, we're screwed. You get
What
one
if they
shot.
miss? I mean, we do have stormtroopers running this thing, okay? I'm just saying.
Well, it's able to move, right? Because it blew up the one star system and then it started up
That was
getting ready
never-
to do another one. So
That was
it
never
has to be
explained,
able
which
to.
is even more baffling
They
because
never really
they
explained.
built it next door, and nobody knows
well,
it. They built it in the next star system.
Literally, like,
You
can
look
see
at the
it.
beam comes out and then splits in all different directions, and you're like, "That's not that."
Well,
far.
Well, my thing is, even if the resistance is just something that Princess Leia did on her own to try and combat this thing, don't all the individual planets and star systems have their own fleets and whatnot that could come to bear if someone, say, blew up their UN? Someone from outside their United Nations just fired a shot, blows up their United. Would they not instantly band together? That's why another thing about The Last Jedi, when it's just like, no one's answering our call. And I'm just like, is everyone just cool with the First Order then coming in? No, everyone's just cool. They blew up one, and we're just like, let's let them
Listen, we
do it some
can't.
more.
We can't
Let's
go up against a planet
ah.
that can, Yeah, but you got to get to the point.
And the
all right, we're good.
justification for that is all
they
the
can't-
rich people just don't care. And
I,
it's like,
for
well,
one-
that's the rich people in Canto Bight. Where are all the Han Solos and all their junkers?
No,
and they're
I
just
feel
like,
one
here
of
they are.
our
And
new
that's-
Imperial overlords.
They realize it's a planet. It's not moving anywhere. We're safe.
Well, they blew that up.
Unless
This is
the
after
planet
that.
comes to us,
I guess
We're-
they're just like,
we're
whatever.
perfectly
What about-
fine.
Fleet. There's a whole fleet. And everyone's just like, if we ignore them, if we ignore the problem, it'll go away. If there's one thing I've learned in my life, if you just ignore it, it'll go away.
Hey guys, I just noticed. So somebody parked these missiles about 90 miles from Florida. You think maybe we ought to do something? No. We'll let the. How about we let the Colombian Navy kind of?
We're gonna
worry
let the
about
X-Men handle that, all right?
It's
Well,
First class.
I just
we'll let James
assumed,
McAvoy handle it.
I just assumed all of the resistance
On the whole
military were on
topic
those planets
about,
that got destroyed. It was like Battleship Row.
On the
all
topic
over
about
again.
like blowing up planets and everything, one of the issues I remember is how they kind of painted themselves into a corner where it's like where do you go from like in original the Death Star, then you get the second Death Star, and then you get Starkiller Base. Like, how do we keep raising the stakes? You kind of paint yourself in a corner where it's like, well, what's worse than something that can blow up a planet? It's like a fleet of things that can destroy a bunch of planets.
Let's
and
put
it's just
that
kind of
technology
like it's
You're
like
just gonna put the guns
into
on
something
ships now. This
smaller
is ridiculous. We
than
keep
it's
building
ever
these things that
existed
get
before.
blown up.
yeah.
Let's go smaller and more efficient.
And
You know?
by the way, if it was Palpatine all along and his plan was a fleet of these ships that had the capability of a Death Star each, what the hell were the first two movies?
Yeah.
Why not start with a fleet of ships that could blow up a planet each?
Because
What?
he had to announce to
Why
everyone
let
first
everyone
that he
know?
was
Well-
back and that they were
Well,
going
it
to
was
Which he
almost-
also did at the beginning of his own. No, he did that on Fortnite. Right, because
On
that
Fortnite.
was a thing that happened.
Right. The thing with the Death Stars, it's like a I
I forgot about
It's
Yeah.
like,
We
well,
all tried to.
we built the first Death Star and that got blown up. But then we built the second Death Star and that one got blown up. But the third won't.
And that's what you're going to get, lad. The strongest Death Star in these aisles.
I
And then
just
what
would
we're
like
gonna
to see
do
the
is-
Imperial designer be like, I'm thinking a cube this time.
Nah, too
Or how- maybe
Pyramid.
a pyramid. Something a little different.
Ergonomic.
Yeah.
Let's make it ergonomic.
I think Debbie and Cam fell asleep.
I feel bad for Cam. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
'Cause I've been making fun of the Last Jedi.
All right.
No, I mean, this has like literally been almost 40 minutes of just talking about the sequels. Like,
Wait a minute. There are other
All right,
parts of
so-
Star Wars?
I think we've, this is actually a celebration
What?
of Star Wars. So,
and to be honest, like I've honestly used up almost all the time that I have. So I mean,
all right, so let's go into my next topic.
Let's
And
yield the floor.
Yeah, let's change this up a little bit. We're an hour in, so let's change it up a little bit and play a little game. Okay, what do you say, everybody?
Yay.
All right, this is something I like to call pixelated. All right, so we're going to play pixelated. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a picture that's been heavily pixelated. Tell me where it's from what movie it's from. We'll see who rings in correctly. Just give us your best Chewbacca to ring in. All right. Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Oh,
That looks like wow.
Okay. Who's that?
that's Chris. Chris got
I
it.
think
Chris,
that's from The Force Awakens. In front of the red banner when
Yeah, General Hux
is
giving
making
his
a speech.
There you go. You got it. All right.
Boom.
So that's
Look, hey,
very good.
I know them.
To be fair, John, that's how I
You
see
know?
everything now. So I might have an advantage at this game.
Does this mean we can finally start talking about the sequels?
Yes. All right. Here's number 2. Look, this one is a little bit easier.
Number 2.
Oh, got it.
All right, Dave.
Return of the Jedi. That's Wicket the Ewok. Wicket real good.
All right. Great job. Great job. Okay. Here we go. Here's one more. That's an easy one.
Come on, Debbie, you got this.
It's Princess Leia, New Hope.
Very good. Very
Hey,
good.
that's not from the movie. That's a promotional image.
Quiet, or it'll be in the next special edition.
The next special edition, they'll put rocks in front of her.
It's not
Yeah.
in the movie. Yes.
All right. Here's another one. What is that?
Is that Wilbur from Charlotte's Web?
That is heavily pixelated.
That's the
what I
Falcon.
said.
Hold on.
You got to keep it pixelated.
There we go.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
You gotta
All right.
keep them pixelated because they're
Now-
good.
All right. So the score is 1-1-1-1-1.
In binary, that's one.
It's a soccer match.
It's the tiebreaker.
Is that Kenobi? What is that?
That's Revenge of
Who
the
said that?
Sith. Yeah.
That's what?
Dave said that.
Oh,
Dave said
what-
Kenobi.
Is it Kenobi
Oh.
from Revenge?
Is it Jefferson Starship from
Yeah.
the holiday special?
Oh God!
no, I'm pretty sure it's Mephisto.
Stir, whip, stir,
What?
whip, 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 stir, beat.
All right. Anybody guess what that is?
Let me see.
And
it.
Yeah, I did the
One more,
and I said
one more
Revenge of the
time.
Sith.
I'm gonna say Kenobi from Attack of the Clones, but I'm not sure.
I would say you're close, but I think
It's
Andrew,
the
I think
opening
you
scene
got
of Revenge of the Sith, isn't it?
it. Yeah, that's
Oh, the opening scene of Revenge of the Sith. Yeah.
Wow.
You are technically correct.
yes.
The best
We have a
kind of-
winner. We have a
Well,
winner.
It is Kenobi. It is Kenobi. Yeah.
It's true from a certain point of view, which
That is, yes.
Ah.
I pride when I pay my taxes.
What a
From a
tweet.
certain point of view.
So
From a
there's
certain point of view. I got your certain point of view right here.
what is your favorite Star Wars parody?
Ooh.
Robot
Does
Spaceballs.
does it get any better than Spaceballs?
I'm gonna say Robot Chicken. I love Spaceballs. I'm gonna say all three Robot Chickens though.
Really?
Oh,
I love
Family
them too
Guy
much.
Blue Harvest was pretty good.
I really
Blue
like the
Harvest
Family
is
Guy
good.
ones.
Family Guy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go old
yeah.
school and say Troops.
Oh yeah, troops.
Troops.
So,
Yeah.
if you move again, I'm gonna shoot ya.
I swear to God, I'm gonna come out here and shoot them both one of these days. That line still makes me crack up with the blurred faces on Uncle in Peru. But
Now,
you know what? I recently showed that to somebody, and they're like, "I don't get it," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you have no idea what cops is, right?" It's like, no, I don't know what cops is.
God.
So,
the
so speaking of ants, I came across, I don't know why this came up today. I guess because it is Star Wars Day, and this meme popped up on my feed, and I thought just mentioning the ants. This was
Okay, that is photoshopped. That is photoshopped.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Cleavage in the original one. Yeah.
Even Debbie
What?
doesn't care.
what?
Oh,
It's
wait,
Photoshop. They
wait.
weren't. They weren't
You know,
exactly on fire.
Baru.
Hold
People
on.
always said we were a hot couple.
Seriously. All right. Hey, all joking aside, anybody else think that is like Debbie in cosplay?
No.
Seriously, the hair.
No.
No. I'm gonna get
Come on.
with Debbie on it because you asked, does that look like Debbie in cosplay? The person herself answered, and you were like, no, hold on. Let me finish making my point. I'm convinced you.
I do run the organization here, so you go cosplay what I
He's
took.
got power.
John, go back to that picture for a second.
Limited.
This is
power.
okay. Hold on. This is Dave every day.
Who's they? What the hell is an aluminum falcon?
That's the line that's
Running-
used in the episode
running
9
to-
trailer instead of the laugh. Yeah. Actually, that picture,
I love
go
you
back to that
too.
picture with Uncle Owen and Aunt Peru. I always thought this was a plot hole. I just think they went out without their sunblock.
their
There's
house.
2 friggin' suns out there.
Yeah.
How do you know they were Imperial stormtroopers? Come on, man.
Only they could be so accurate.
And
They were
to
aiming
be
for the
honest,
house.
Let me pull back the curtain a little bit. My office isn't as nice as Palpatine's. There you go. I said it. All right, fine. Jeez.
He's not the Senate. Make
Just
somebody
once-
make a motion. Table a motion.
Just once, I would have loved to have seen Palpatine go, who the hell ordered me a chair when I get up, I hit my head? Like,
Wang.
yeah, like, thunk.
They
Yeah,
do
that's-
have when he sits down on Robot Chicken on the one when he's on the first step there. He's like, right under the vent, of course.
All right. Well, folks,
I like the one where he's on the escalator. Like, to me, that stormtrooper.
Shut up.
Fuck you.
Screw you.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
Stormtrooper.
I literally threw the Senate at them.
the whole Senate.
you must smell like feet wrapped in burnt leathery bacon.
What do you got, an ATM? What do you mean just build another one? What, you got an ATM and a light bright chest of yours? Get your asthmatic ass
Torso light
back
bright.
here
Yeah.
before I tell everyone what a bitch you were about. Pat him
Oh
on
God,
there.
he's crying.
Whatever the hell her name was.
I like
Crying.
the
Oh
Family
God,
Guy
he's
one.
crying.
The Family Guy one was really good. Here I am on Tatooine, jumping double dutch like I've never seen. I know my way around a rope. Help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope.
good.
It was great.
I
That
gotta say, Boba, this is one beauty of a ship. Not crazy about the name, though.
Nobody beats Robot Chicken. Nobody beats Robot Chicken.
although I have to say, in the Family Guy one, at the final confrontation scene, when Carter as the Emperor goes, all right, everybody just calm the fuck down. I still crack up when I hear that.
They're really good, and they work together on them. Is the great thing. Like Seth MacFarlane does tons of the voices. He does the Emperor in the Robot Chicken stuff, and then you've got Seth Green, who obviously does Chris, and they even mention each other's specials while they're doing it and crap on each other because that's obviously just the way you do things.
Chris ending the Robot Chicken one, yeah.
Say there, Dave, can you show me that lightsaber again? I don't want to see it.
Get your fat space ass back here.
And Robot Chicken stole my Red Fox joke. John, you can attest to that.
Yes.
Red Fox standing by.
Yeah,
I'm coming, Elizabeth. I'm coming.
Family Guy did that one too. Yeah, I think
we did that. I did that at the midnight showing when they re-released them, and that was a great night. It was you, me, and Chris. I think we were only 3 people in the theater, and oh god, we had fun with that.
You there, Chris?
Well, that was the special employee screening that I set up.
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah. So
Red Fox standing by.
Yeah,
dummy.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, I'm gonna have to jump out, so I'll leave y'all to the rest of the shenanigans here, and and then I'll probably go watch Blue Harvest for like the 18th time today.
Dude,
Why not?
watch David jump out, grab onto the diving board, and then jump right back in with a lightsaber and be like, "What up?"
Just real quick before Dave leaves, her parts is the whole like he's like, "Oh no, John Williams." He's like, "I guess we're gonna have to do this whole thing with Delphin now." It's like,
So I don't know if you guys have seen this, but back in November, Jeff and I spoke to Butch Patrick, and he had mentioned he has a 6 degrees of separation from Star Wars. Have you guys seen that?
He has a 1 degree of separation.
I guess 1 degree. Let's take a look at that and see what if any of you guys knew this.
Now I have another one here that who would this?
You know who's in that? Jerry Marin is in Rah Rah. He was the last living Munchkin, and he was also Little Oscar, and he was paging Philip Morris. He was like the most famous little person in Hollywood. Worked all the time, and also Felix Silla, who you can only see part of Colonel Poom. Felix Silla, who obviously was Cousin Id and Tweaky on Buck Rogers, and he was an Ewok, and I mean he just did work after job after job after job. And I met Felix on My Favorite Martian when I was 7 years old. He played a stunt double, or 8 years old.
Now
So that's how long I've known Felix.
Now you got the Donny Osmond hair going on there. Was that
I actually cut about 4 inches off my hair for this show.
really?
That was some rocking hair, man.
Yeah, I was looking like I should have been in Zeppelin or The Dead or something. When I went in for my interview, they go, "Oh my God, you're going to have to lose the hair." And it was funny. The reason I cut it was because about a year later, there was a bad story. George Lucas had approached me to cut my hair for a little movie. I was at the beach surfing, and he tracked me down. And I had very long hair surfing, and I come out of the water, and he goes, "Hey, I would really like you to do this movie about these cars up in Modesto in 1962, but you're going to have to cut your hair like a 50s look." And I said, "No way, Mr. Lucas." I had no idea who George Lucas was back then. And American Graffiti came out, and I went, "Oh my gosh, what a big mistake that was." Richard Dreyfuss. He came looking to me to play Richard Dreyfuss's part, and I said, "No, thank you, sir. Good luck with your
No way."
Yeah.
So who knows where that could have gone? That he might have actually been Luke Skywalker.
Yep. I didn't know that before I saw your interview with him. That's a great interview, by the way. The rest of that entire thing, tons of different stories, the Monstermobiles and the cars and stuff. Go check that out when you get the chance. Anyone that's watching this.
Yeah, that was a fun one. So
that was a good one.
Let's do one more thing before we wrap this up, and it goes back to the pixelated, and I like a good laugh, and he's not usually my type of late night show, but let's take a look and see your reactions. You've probably seen this, but let's see your reactions to unnecessary censorship. Star Wars edition.
My son is with them.
Are you sure?
I have him, my master.
Let me see your. You don't need to see his.
Don't go.
yourself.
I gotta leave. I can't stay anymore.
You're good for Solo.
Tough job of
I'm capable of.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I don't think so.
They aren't here. What must have happened to them? See if they've been captured. Hurry. Escape your destiny. You
must fuck Vader.
My own father.
Do you love clicking buttons?
Wow.
Subscribe to my
Yeah,
the beauty of editing.
Yeah, the light and magic.
How can I tell a different
It
story?
reminds me of.
I don't know who that was.
So
coffee or what?
All right. Well, I thought you were going to say something, Andrew.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were whoever was clearing their throat. Somebody was clearing their throat. I thought that's what was happening. No, I was gonna say just similar to that. Have you guys ever seen that clip where it talks about how music makes a whole difference? And it's that scene where Vader's waiting for the Emperor to come down the ramp, and it's playing that like romantic song, and it goes ah ha ha ha. No, I forgot how the song goes, but a romantic song is completely adds a different context to that scene, where it's just the steam rising and the coming down. They're kind of just like just looking. I don't know if you guys have seen that clip or not.
Yeah, that's the soundtrack. Yeah, that's why like it's definitely different when Vader walks in with the Imperial March versus if you had him coming in with like da 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 da.
Well, have you seen the one where they removed the celebration music from the end of episode 4, and they just walk into silence, and you hear the footsteps.
Oh, yeah, super awkward. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and speaking of editing, this is something I did a while ago, and I didn't upload it to the correct way. So, this is something I did. It's my special edition of the end of The Rise of Skywalker. I just thought that would have made Rise of Skywalker so much better. You know, have Mickey flashing in front of Rey as she's trying to get up and struggle.
Get up, you son of a bitch.
So, I want to thank you all for coming on the program and talking Star Wars. I really enjoyed it. I haven't laughed this hard in a long time, and thank you all for your opinions. Marty, it's been great. It's good seeing you. Chris, we'll see you. We'll see you on Mondays. Deb, we'll see you on Mondays. Cam, we'll see you all week this week with all your videos. And Andrew, we'll keep an eye out for you on the webpage for your stories and your breaking news. we've lost a lot, and as we get older, we're going to continue to lose some more. So I want to end the program today with a little memory of those from the days of Star Wars that are no longer with us. And thank you guys again. And we'll see you next time right here on the Geek and I podcast. We are a GNN podcast. Check Geek News Now on the web and on Facebook for everything geeky. Hit us up on social. What's the link for the social? The Geek News Now official or GNN official?
Twitter.
On
I think
Twitter?
it's GNN.
GNN
underscore then official. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yes, GNN Home. That's right. So again, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time on the Geek and I podcast with John and Jeff.